And that is going to require some work of the legislature because the state's going to have to kick in more. This year alone, I lost 14 employees as of September 30th because not as many grants are being given. Grant work that just does excellent things for community. And the grants, so that we're clear, they're actually not the Fulton County District Attorney's grants. They're not the Atlanta Judicial Circuit's grants. They are the grants of the county. So they are not my grants. So that's a misnomer slang.
Of those 13, were they prosecutors or were they admin? What do they do?
A combination of everything. Some lawyers, some investigators, some staff.
Okay.
And those weren't all federal grants.
I want to move quickly through, and I don't want to belabor this, but there was a letter that I want to ask you about that came from Senator Grassley relative to grants, and then we heard testimony from someone who I believe used to work in your office, is no longer employed, named Amanda Timpson.
Yeah, all of her, 5 of her cases have been dismissed now. So I think that you should know that on summary judgment because she gave this committee information that was incorrect and her cases have been dismissed. You're not soothsayers. You wouldn't know that as you went into the future, but facts were provided to you that were inaccurate, not true, and those cases were dismissed. And it's about 5 cases. Some dismissed by her counsel. One was just dismissed on summary judgment. I've not misused grants funds. You were given false information.
Let's
That's not the only witness that gave you false information, but that one certainly did.
Okay. And I'm going to kind of cross-reference a couple of things that was the testimony from Ms. Timpson. I also will reference a couple of things in the letter. The letter specifically notes that your office received $500,000 in 2020 to open a youth empowerment and gang prevention center.
You know I wasn't the DA in 2020.
Correct. I'm just going to ask you if the money for the grant has been used for that purpose, to your knowledge.
I wasn't the DA in 2020. I can't speculate.
After receiving Mr. Grassley's letter, did you have the opportunity to look into the use of that $500,000?
I don't believe I did. I don't think I responded to Mr. Grassley.
Okay. The letter highlights a report that roughly $89,000 of those funds have been diverted to what is known as the Offender Alumni Association. Is that report accurate to your knowledge?
I don't have any knowledge, and I'm not going to speculate.
Okay. When Ms. Timpson was here, she previously testified that she discovered the office was using these grants and expenses that were not eligible for the grant. Specifically, she mentioned swag, computers, and travel.
And didn't know what she was talking about, which is why her cases were dismissed.
So is it your testimony that the funds were not used for swag, travel, or computers?
Let me speak specifically to the one that I know about.
Okay.
I bought a computer for a grant employee. I did not use grant funds to buy it. Which I do with all my grants. It's never enough. So you always do things to support the people working on the grants. But what I can tell you is her cases were dismissed because they had no merit. One was just dismissed on summary judgment.
She testified that she had brought this to your attention in late 2021. Do you recall that conversation?
I do not recall it. What I recall is Ms. Timpson being a troubled employee that did not do well at the office, that I moved her. I remember she was one of those people I interviewed. I remember feeling terribly sorry for her because she's got a tragic story. So I was proud of that she had kind of lifted herself up by her bootstraps. But she ended up being an employee that was a holdover employee and not very good at her job. We tried and tried to work with her. Ultimately, she put some of my employees in fear, and she was let go. And that's what I recall.
And she was let go in January 2022. So.
I don't remember. I've had up to 400 employees before the ARPA money was employed. I literally have no idea. She obviously was not a lawyer or an investigator, and that is the tiers of my office, a lower-level employee. I don't remember.
Okay. Going back to Grassley's letter,
I told you I didn't respond to Grassley's letter. I don't remember it. It doesn't stand out to me. It wasn't important to me.
I'll just highlight for you one thing he said, just allow you to clarify if it's accurate or not. He cites a report in the letter that says that in 2023, 98% of these federal grant funds were spent on travel and conferences.
I don't know if that's true or not. I doubt it's true. But if it was spent on travel and conferences, it would have been allowances of the grant. But that sounds inaccurate to me. But again, we're speculating.
Okay. Chairman Grassley asked you for a series of documents, and based on what you just said, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to clarify. He asked for a list of all federal grants received by the office since 2019, complete accounting of all expenditures of grant funds, reports relating to planned expenditures of those funds. Have you complied with Mr. Grassley's request?
I believe Mr. Grassley was ignored.
Okay. Would you be willing to provide those documents to this committee?
I think you've been provided documents. What did happen was I provided documents to Jim Jordan.
Do you know if federal grant uses and sources and details that was requested by Mr. Grassley would have been captured in what you provided to Mr. Jordan?
Have no idea. This is a large office. It's not a rural office. I have a grant team.
So if we request these documents, you'd be willing to provide them to the committee?
Whatever's been provided is what I was willing to provide.
Okay.
We'll consider, but I think it is included because I Washington. Jim Jordan.
Can you say that one more time?
I went to Washington on the Jim Jordan committee twice, and not only did they have all the documents, they sent another team of auditors down, and they said everything was still correct.
I just passed a federal DOJ audit this week.
The Fulton County Ethics Code was amended in April of '24 to clarify that it includes elected officials. Is that your understanding?
I have no idea what Fulton County did.
That wouldn't apply to her.
Yeah, I'm not a county elected official. I'm a state.
She's a state elected,
Right.
not a county.
Okay, so your position would be that the county ethics code, anti-nepotism code that they updated to include elected officials, when they expanded that scope, that would not include you. That would be
There's county electeds and there's a state elected. I am a state elected.
Okay.
I represent the Atlanta Judicial Circuit.
Does PAC have any sort of model language around either internal ethics codes for your office to use or any sort of anti-nepotism
You have to ask PAC.
language? Are you aware of
I'm not.
anything that PAC has provided? Can you provide the committee with any sort of internal ethics guidelines that you have, as well as any sort of anti-nepotism policy that your office has in writing?
I subpoena them, we'll consider it, and decide whether it's relevant to the inquiry or whether it's privileged or whether you've already received it.
Okay. Does an internal ethics policy exist in writing?
You know, you mentioned companies, and, you know, it's interesting because I also saw where you posted where it's always Fulton County. But the truth is, you have a company that you've listed on your disclosures for finances, and that company stole millions of dollars from Fulton. If you want to look at ethics, you might want to look at that.
Does your office have any sort of internal
The company's name is Teletrax, in case
ethics?
anyone thinks I'm making this up. And people died because that company did not provide the services that they purported to provide.
Does your office have an internal ethics policy that's in writing?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. I want to lastly just ask a couple of questions about the Open Records Act.
Let me tell you something. I have a 92% conviction rate and a 92% clearance rate with open records. From January of 24 till November 30th of 2025, I've gotten over 1,600 open records requests. This ain't a rural town.
Say that number again. I'm sorry.
Over 1,600. And we have cleared 92%. Now, it should be noted that in 24, people were abusing the open records thing. Ms. Merchant, as you mentioned, over 30 requests for open records. Lots of people were abusing it. And it troubles me that in 25, I have to now start charging people for open records because I realize people will abuse it. But 92% of the open records requested, we have cleared.
Can you define cleared? What do you mean when we say cleared?
They've asked for documents and we've given them to them.
Okay. And you mentioned you're now having to charge an hourly rate. There were no hourly rates.
Not from January 1st of 2021. That was a novel idea a young, naive, new district attorney did. I thought that I could provide documents, or I wanted to have transparency. I wanted to be able to communicate with the public, and I wanted indigent people as well as rich people to be able, if they had something, to give it to them. What I didn't know is that there were a lot of evil people that would abuse that to make up lies.
Can you clarify for me? You said you started charging just earlier this year?
January of 2025.
Okay.
But I don't take in those funds. I had Ms. Whitmore do that.
Prior to your getting sworn in, did your office charge for open records requests?
I believe the prior DA did charge for open records, but you know, when you become the new DA, you have new ideas. One of my new ideas was I wanted to offer this level of transparency to my constituents. It was abused by people all over the country.
You referenced certain individuals abusing the process.
Absolutely.
When you said 30, just to take the example of Ms. Merchant, just since she has been before the committee, you said she filed 30 open records requests? In what
More
period?
than 30. It was 30 it was a little bit in excess of 30. Yes, I did say that.
Over what period of time?
I don't remember.
All right, as you see, they're dipping in.